Tom Dickinson is my name.
Can I just call you T?
I'd prefer you didn't. I know that is something that people do to people whose names begin with T.
Is it really? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like, for instance, my cousin is named Timothy, or just Tim, but people call him T occasionally.
See, I knew about Mr. T.
Well, okay, yes, well. Lewis, please, just T. Mr. T is my father.
And I'm Lewis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room, a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. So, you watched Genesis of the Daleks, did you not?
I did.
And you had seen it before.
I had.
So this is your second viewing.
Indeed.
Well, I guess, what did you think of it in general? I mean, not necessarily just what did you think of it on this viewing, as opposed to previous viewings, but like in general, a holistic view of the story, if you will.
Well, I liked the story. It's interesting because this is something that, a show about time travel can kind of get away with, is you can say, like, here's our greatest enemy, let's go back and, try and stop their creation. And actually it's kind of interesting because I haven't watched all of the classic series. I don't really know all of the interactions between the Doctor and the other Time Lords, but the impression I got from the start of the episode was it was especially interesting seeing this relationship from having seen him being exiled to Earth and, being in exile and stuff like that, and I'm actually a little curious how that relationship got to that point. But overall, the episode I quite liked the story.
Okay, in the recent Doctor Who magazine poll that ranked all 200 Doctor Who stories in order of how much the fans seemed to like them, this was ranked number 3, I think. Caves of Androzani was at the top, and then Blink, and then this. I think it might be slightly overrated. Like, I don't think it's the greatest Doctor Who story, but it is it's a very fun story. I like Davros a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Davros in this, so.
Yeah, and my second viewing, I think I liked it a lot more than my first viewing, because my first viewing of it was like, if I'm recalling correctly, it was the second classic story I watched. And so I still wasn't used to the pacing, and it just seemed very slow to me, and I kind of didn't like that. But now that I think I'm accustomed to the classic series, I enjoyed it a lot more, because I could sort of get over the pacing issues and just sort of hone in on the story itself.
Yeah, you can imagine, this story is 6 episodes long, so that's roughly 3 hours. If this had been done in the present series, you could envision this entire story being condensed into 2 parts, which would take about an hour and a half.
Right.
But still, I think it does hold up very well, even if there is a lot of there is some padding, but there really isn't too much, and I think there's a lot more talking in this story than you might see in the current series, but it's the talking scenes, especially between the Doctor and Davros sort of later in the story, that I think those are really well done.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially, I believe the Doctor called the Daleks to be, like, evil. And it was interesting because Davros was like, well, no, they're not evil, or something to that effect. And it was just kind of interesting to see, like, Davros has a concept of evil, and he thinks that his Daleks aren't evil. And it made me wonder, like, well, what exactly is his definition of evil? But it was those scenes were very good, I think.
Another, like, a scene that, like, really strikes me every time I watch it is the scene where the Doctor puts to Davros this hypothetical situation. What if there was this virus that could destroy all life in the universe, would you release it? And Davros is like, he's very slow and considered and thoughtful in his answer, and he's like, well, yes, I think I would. And then he gradually sort of builds this maniacal, crazy cackle, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
I do think the prosthetics on Davros are a little cheesy by today's standards, and that's kind of hard to get past.
Mm-hmm. I think that was something that really bothered me my first viewing. But yeah, I've since gotten over that sort of stuff.
It's still hard to sort of look past that. I mean, they did Davros, at least visually, they did him very well in Journey's End. And I know, I think they did him well in other respects, but some people disagree. But at the very least, like, it's a lot more convincing visual of the character in Journey's End than it is in this. But, actually, I feel like even in other classic stories, he doesn't look as good as he does here. Like, the prosthetics here are better than in other classic Davros stories.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not that that's a huge distinction. Yeah. I mean, but still.
I think I may have mentioned this before, but I really think the Daleks look better, I want to say. Or not better. Kind of scarier, I think, in the classic series, particularly in this episode, than the 2005 Daleks. I'm not sure why that is. I just think that they do.
Yeah, I feel like the design is a lot simpler. That might have something to do with it. They look less like... I don't know. They look less like objects that have been manufactured by humans.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. Like, the design with... It's less textured, too.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just babbling. But...
No, I think that's a quality that... I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the new Dalek design that they introduced this past season, but I think they're a little bit scarier than the 2005.
Even in their rainbow colors?
Rainbow colors, all right, that kind of diminishes it a little bit, but I think that making them bigger helped, I think. And I feel like their overall design sort of makes them a little bit scarier, just a little bit.
Well, I think we said this before. You fear Steve Jobs, and they look like Apple products.
That's true. That might be it.
So once again, Steve Jobs is striking at the heart of what makes you tremble with fear.
Yeah, that's pretty much a constant.
So this is by no means your first encounter with the Fourth Doctor.
Very true.
But we've been saying a little bit about each Doctor as we go along, so perhaps we should continue that trend in general.
I quite like him. I think that I like his voice. I like how he talks. I mean, I know that's, Tom Baker just talking, but at the same time, I just like hearing his voice. I feel safe.
It has a sort of gravity to it.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a very large portion of what makes him so good. Uh-huh. That also allows for some nice comedy when he's being ridiculous.
That's true.
Because he's able to say ridiculous things in a very grave way.
Yeah, right.
I think he does very well with both the silly bits and the really serious ones, like where he's got those wires and he's trying to consider whether he should destroy the Daleks. And I feel like Tom Baker sort of handles both of those well.
Very true.
Just by being Tom Baker, I guess. Like, a lot of people say that Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor isn't really a performance. He's just being Tom Baker. So, I don't know whether that's really accurate.
Well, I don't know, because I've never seen Tom... Well, I mean, I guess I've never really seen any of the actors who played the Doctor in anything else. With the exception of, like, the 10th Doctor playing Barty Crouch Jr. But, like, beyond that, I really haven't seen those actors in anything else that I can think of. So I wouldn't really know necessarily, like, how much is the actor just being himself and how much is him actually taking on the role.
Well, based on what I've heard about Tom Baker and what I've heard from him in interviews, I get the impression that he's a little bit unpleasant. Like, difficult to work with, kind of mean. But apparently also, like, whenever he'd run into children... just when he was out and about, he'd do his best to, like, be what they wanted him to be and not to disappoint them. So, I don't know. He's a very interesting guy. He was offered the role of Gandalf.
I think I remember you saying that one time. And so he like, what, turned it down?
I think he turned it down because he didn't want to go to New Zealand for such a long time.
Huh. I think he would have made a pretty
cool
Gandalf.
I'm fine with the one we have, but But Tom Baker would have been very interesting. He does have a nice voice for it. So he could make sort of proclamations of, like, you shall not pass in his deep Tom Bakerian tones.
I feel like we probably have enough of his voice. We could probably splice together him actually saying phrases like that.
Actually, it's interesting you should say that, because there was a service in the UK, I don't think it still exists, it may, that would allow you to send a text message, and instead of the person receiving it as a text message, they'd receive it as Tom Baker's voice. This was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago? Like, I had forgotten about that until you just mentioned that, but, I mean, and there are websites that have used it to have him say the most ridiculous things imaginable, or vulgar things, just for fun.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's also kind of ridiculous.
But how does that work? Do they just take bits of his, like snippets of his dialogue and then rearrange it, or is it actually like something synthesized?
Well, I think it was done. It's not like they just took bits of his dialogue. I think he went into a studio.
Oh, really?
Recorded a bunch. Yeah, like this is done with his cooperation.
Oh, wow.
Like, I believe he's also a massive egotist, so I'm sure this would appeal to him. God, I could just be making all this up. Jeez. No, I need to look this up to see if it's real. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a thing called Tom Baker Says. I guess you could find out more information about it at tombakersays.com. Basically, so what it is you send a text message to a landline, and that's how they'll receive it.
Ah.
This whole thing is really bizarre.
Kinda is, yeah.
It's not offered anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
According to this website.
Because that'd be awesome if Tom Baker's just been doing this for years, just sitting around reading things aloud in some studio somewhere. That'd be pretty great.
Well, he doesn't, like, read your text messages. He read, like, the dictionary or something like that. And then splice that together. They didn't just... What I meant is that they didn't take his dialogue from Doctor Who or Little Britain.
Okay.
So he went in there and recorded it specifically for that. He didn't just, like, read people's text messages.
Okay, because that was what I was envisioning in my head, and it didn't quite make a whole lot of sense. But all right. I figured, all right. That's too bad. Like, why would they stop offering that service? That's a fantastic service.
Apparently, okay, I'm looking into it more. Apparently it was only offered for 3 months.
But how long would it have taken to record all, like, that dictionary? It seems like 3 months is not.
I'm reading from the Wikipedia page here.
Okay.
During the first 3 months of 2006, his voice was used by BT, that's British Telecom, I guess, for spoken delivery of text messages to landline phones. He recorded 11,593 phrases containing every sound in the English language for use by the text-to-speech service.
Okay. That makes more sense, actually, because with synthesized thingamawhatsit, it'd probably sound a lot better than just combining words.
Yeah, that must be it. Okay. Yeah, I don't really understand very much about how this works. It's all very mysterious to me, but...
Nevertheless, I can't believe they would ever stop. That's such a great service. That's like, I want that.
What I can't figure out right now is whether they have someone else doing it now, or...
Oh, that could be.
He did it for just 3 months, I guess. Maybe they rotate people.
That could be.
Like, maybe now it's some other successful actor or performer.
I liked seeing Sarah Jane so young because, the first time I'd seen Sarah Jane was in, was it School Reunion?
Right.
And, she was old.
She's not that old.
Well, older. I mean...
She's not, like, elderly.
Well, okay, fair enough. But at the same time, she's old. She's older than me.
Okay, true. Older than you. I'm older than you.
That's a good point. You're old.
I guess.
So that was kind of cool. As far as that Harry guy, I actually have no idea who he is, and I should probably have looked that up, but I don't know his backstory.
I believe he's a Navy doctor who was working with UNIT for a time. And Sarah Jane was a journalist who was around UNIT during the Third Doctor's time there. And so she became his companion, and then Harry just happened to become the companion of the Fourth Doctor, and they traveled together, not for that long, I don't think, for about a season. And other than that, there's not that much to say about him.
Yeah, he seemed to not play too huge of a role in this episode, just because he was always with the Doctor, and the Doctor seemed to be more, authoritative, as you'd expect. But Sarah Jane was often doing her own thing, and she, led like a little miniature rebellion, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Harry, he's not really all that distinctive. Like, he's really just some guy. He's likable enough. Mm-hmm. He's not like, oh, I don't like that Harry guy. He's just, there's not an awful lot you can say about him.
Right.
This story involves Sarah Jane, which got me thinking about the Sarah Jane Adventures. Uh-huh. Now, have you watched that show at all?
I guess I can't say that I have.
It's a hard question, I know.
Well, I have made several attempts to watch the Sarah Jane Adventures. It shouldn't be that hard, but for some reason, I try to watch the pilot episode. I've tried to do that several times, and I've really done it really only when I've been procrastinating for other things. And so I've watched like a good 20 minutes of it, and I'm like, oh, I should probably do these other things now. And so then I kind of just like pushed it off to the side. I have available to me, I think, the first 2 seasons. I just haven't sat down and actually watched them. So no, I can't really say that I have, because I haven't even watched the pilot.
You've watched part of it, though.
I've watched part of it, yeah.
The reason I was asking is because the 4th series is soon to begin, I think. It's about a month away. And I was wondering whether we were going to cover it on the podcast. And if you are going to watch it, then we will. And if you're not, then we won't. I'm not going to pressure you to do anything you don't want to do, Lewis.
I do kind of want to watch it. And so for that reason, let's say that we will.
This is, I suppose, a personal choice to you, but you shouldn't feel that much of a need to catch up.
Okay.
Like, I mean, you can if you want to. I would probably want to because I'm crazy like that and I need to be up to speed on everything, but the stories are about as standalone, or perhaps even a little bit more than Doctor Who.
Okay.
For instance, anyone could just watch an episode of Doctor Who and be reasonably entertained and understand what's going on.
Right.
It's not like picking up an episode in the middle of the 5th season of Lost.
Right. So now Russell T Davies is still doing that show, right?
I don't really know how heavily involved he is with it. I know he's writing, the way it's set up is, aside from the pilot, which is 1 hour, each episode is a half an hour, and they're organized into 2-parters.
Oh.
So I believe he's writing a 2-parter this year, and it's going to be a 2-parter that will feature a guest appearance by Matt Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And is also going to feature a guest appearance by Katie Manning as the Third Doctor's companion, Jo, who I suppose you haven't seen.
I don't believe so, no.
But yeah, so that's one that I'm looking forward to very much.
Okay. Now David Tennant ended up making an appearance on that show, right?
I believe the appearance he made on that show was actually the last thing he ever filmed as the Doctor. Because even though it aired before the specials, it was filmed later. So yeah, he appeared in a 2-part story, as they all are, and I'd have to say it was probably one of the best Sarah Jane Adventures stories, and not just because the Doctor was in it, although that was a part of it.
Yeah, I seem to recall. I think my original motivation for watching the Sarah Jane Adventures was so that I would be able to then watch the appearance of the 10th Doctor, because I believe at that time all we'd had was the Christmas special and then Planet of the Dead, and that was all we'd seen of the Doctor for that year.
Yeah, it had been a while.
Right. And so I was looking forward to it, and then I ended up not caring, which happens a lot.
If they couldn't hook you with the 10th Doctor, maybe they can hook you with the 11th.
They just might. And
maybe that'll motivate you.
And that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's nice to see the continued crossover, although, I don't know, it's just, it seems so strange just that, Doctor Who has just sort of changed, I think, quite a bit.
It's moved on.
Yeah. And so I don't know what to make of that. It'll be interesting, and I think I will I think I will enjoy it. But I don't know, I've got mixed feelings about it.
Well, yeah, both the Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood, to me, seem very much of the Russell T Davies era. And the fact that they continue to exist, I mean, like, for instance, in The End of Time, the Doctor sort of says goodbye to Sarah Jane. I feel like that's sort of a send-off, like, okay, these two won't meet again. So I was a little bit surprised when I found out that they will.
Right.
And another thing is the Doctor, at the time when he visited Sarah Jane in Series 3 of the Sarah Jane Adventures, he was traveling alone. So there was a reason why he would be showing up there without a companion. But I'm kind of wondering what it is that is going to bring the Doctor into Sarah Jane Adventures without Amy and Rory, because he is currently traveling with both of them.
Yeah, so Amy and Rory are definitely not in this episode then?
I mean, I wouldn't say definitely, but they haven't been announced as being a part of it. If they were to be in it, it would probably be a big surprise. Did you hear about Caprica?
No, I didn't.
Well, let me tell you about Caprica.
Okay.
They had decided that Caprica was going to be airing in January, but then they sort of changed their minds, I guess, and now it's going to be airing in October.
Ooh.
October 5th, I think.
That's a bit exciting.
Yeah, so that's a Tuesday night, so it's going to be on Tuesday nights instead of Friday nights as it previously was.
So now they won't be competing with Swamp Loggers.
Exactly. Although, Discovery Channel or whoever might move Swamp Loggers because they can be very aggressive about how they schedule their programming.
So moving, I don't really know TV all that much, but like moving a show up in the week, that's like a good thing, right?
It depends. It's all very complicated, but Friday night is not a very big TV watching night for any demographic. When they put a show on Friday night, basically what that says is, we're not confident that this show is going to be a smash hit, but we're hoping that it's going to have a small, loyal fan base who will watch it more than they'll watch any of the other crud that's on Friday nights. For instance, Dollhouse was on Friday nights.
Yes.
And people said, why are they putting it on Friday night? No one's going to watch it. And my response to that would be, do they really think people would watch this show on Monday nights? I mean, this show is not going to be very successful, no matter where they put it. And I think Fox knew that. So they put it on a night when it didn't have a lot of competition.
Okay.
And I feel like that's what Sci-Fi was doing when they put Caprica. And I believe Battlestar Galactica was also a Friday night show.
I never watched it live.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it was also a Friday night show because it's not a smash hit, but it's a show with a loyal fan base.
Okay.
That will watch it whenever it's on.
That's true.
Caprica, putting it during the week gives it a potential for a larger audience, although Caprica doesn't seem to me like a show that's going to attract an awful large audience.
Yeah. It seems definitely where they left off. It's kind of odd. I don't really know. Like, I think that people would be generally confused, although I don't know.
I feel like previously when we were talking about Caprica, I might have sounded a little bit harsher on the show than I intended to. Like, I find it very interesting. Even when it's not perfect, it's usually at least interesting to watch, and I definitely intend to keep watching it.
Yeah, and I think it was getting a little bit better towards the end of the first half season. So I think in that respect, if it gets better, even better than it is or was at the breaking point, then yeah, I think I would definitely continue to watch and continue to be a fan of it.
I believe the creators have said that when it returns, it will be a faster-paced show. It's gonna have fewer confusing subplots and stuff like that.
Oh, how nice of them!
Yeah, I am interested to see where it goes, and I'm glad that it's going to be showing up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because I feel like if it was in January, I just feel like it would be too much time would have elapsed, and I would have completely forgotten what was going on, or at the very least, just sort of lost interest in the characters. But to have it happening in a month's time, that's good, because I just watched the finale like a month ago, so it's still sort of in my mind.
I mean, that's what happened to a lot of shows after the writer's strike. Like new shows that just started, like the two that spring to mind because I was a fan are Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles and Pushing Daisies. They were doing strong in their first seasons, but those first seasons got cut short, and then it was a long time before they came back, so people just sort of forgot about them, just sort of lost interest because it had been such a long gap. And I feel like if they had waited much longer with Caprica, there's a legitimate danger of that happening. But they're bringing it back, so no need to worry. So I don't think there's any Doctor Who news this week.
I'm certainly not aware of any, so...
I believe the only piece of news is the release of a special edition Sonic Screwdriver Wiimote.
Oh yeah, I saw that. But it's only available in the UK, right?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I don't know whether it's compatible with American Wiis. I would assume it would be, but I know games aren't compatible across regions, so it may be that the Wiimote wouldn't be either. Who knows?
I don't know. I think hardware accessories ought to work, but I'm not sure. That's an interesting question.
I'm sure someone will have the answer.
If it is compatible, I might need to get one. I do have a Wii, I just don't do anything with it.
You know, I don't play very often either, but that's just because I don't play very many video games in general. I've actually, okay, you're going to hate this. I've started playing games on my iPod Touch. Yeah, I just got an iPod Touch within the past week. It's my first iOS device. Never had an iOS device before. As we speak, I'm currently sitting at my computer recording a podcast and checking my email on my iPod Touch. Oh, look, my friend Sammy just emailed me. Sammy and I are getting together in a couple of hours to play the Pokemon trading card game.
And as you should.
We don't get many people voting. We only get, like, around maybe a dozen people responding.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not a very scientific poll of what we should watch. But the 3 stories that got the most positive reaction were Caves of Androzani,
Okay.
Earthshock,
Okay.
and there was a surprise contender, The Visitation,
Okay.
which I've never seen.
I actually just watched that like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was it?
I quite liked it. I thought it had some really great moments and some great dialogue. Well, not necessarily great dialogue, but like the Doctor had some pretty funny one-liners. It was really good. I quite enjoyed it.
Okay, well, that's all you'll get to say about it. Because we are not talking about The Visitation. It came close, but the winner is Caves of Androzani.
Okay. That is the only one of the ones you just mentioned that I have not seen.
Oh, glorious. And as I mentioned before, Caves of Androzani is a very well-regarded story.
Yes.
So you should watch it, and now you will.
Indeed.
And so then after that, we would need to have a 6th Doctor story to be recommended to us.
Uh-huh.
But there's a bit of a complication here that we need to iron out.
Okay.
Trial of a Time Lord.
Yes?
Depending on who you ask, Trial of a Time Lord is a single 14-part story or 4 separate stories.
Huh.
So, I don't know how we are going to count it.
14 episodes is a lot to watch.
Yeah, so I think we should count that out and consider each story separately.
All right.
Well, then that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
So we would like the listeners and whoever to give us suggestions as to which 6th Doctor story we should watch, keeping in mind that the Trial of a Time Lord counts as 4 stories rather than 1.
Okay.
These people should contact us, Lewis.
Huh? What?
The people who are listening to the podcast should contact us.
They should.
They should just tell us stuff.
Yeah.
And there are ways they can do that.
Of course.
Like, for instance, Twitter.
Yes. Popular medium.
What's our Twitter name?
The Cloister Room.
That's it. That's also the name of the podcast.
It is.
It's a pretty lucky coincidence for us.
Yeah. That just happened. That was completely random, right? That's how Twitter names work, right?
More or less.
Okay.
For instance, your Twitter name has nothing to do with your actual name.
Yeah.
It's Miles Belly.
Which is, not even English.
Exactly.
Nor is it a real name.
And my Twitter name, well, that's T. Dickinson.
It is.
Which is my name. Tom Dickinson is my name.
Can I just call you T?
I'd prefer you didn't. I know that is something that people do to people whose names begin with T.
Is it really? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like, for instance, my cousin is named Timothy, or just Tim, but people call him T occasionally.
See, I knew about Mr. T.
Well, okay, yes, well. Lewis, please, just T. Mr. T is my father. Wait, we did Twitter, right? Yeah, okay.
We did.
Email, thecloisterroom@gmail.com. And there is, of course, thecloisterroom.com, which is the website at which you can find this fine program and other episodes of this fine program and comment on the comment page, and they will show up if I'm motivated enough to moderate the comments. Like, you have to have them moderated. They don't appear until I approve them, and I'm lazy, so I don't always do it. But sometimes I do.
All right, then.
Yeah. In any case, that brings this episode of The Cloister Room to an end. I have been Tom Dickinson.
And I have been Lewis Midas.
Goodbye.
Farewell.